Multiple NBA insiders believe that the New York Knicks are the next team to trade for a star player after their loss to the Phoenix Suns, where they really lost off of Devin Booker just being an incredible player and getting a bucket every time they needed one, including one in the last second. With all this, we have to jump right into it and talk about it. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. My name is Chris, and we are going to get right to it because ESPN's Tim Bontemps said after the Knicks lost to the Suns that the Knicks just are the ultimate try-hard team, and they're too reliant on Julius Randle, who's not good enough to get them to where they want to go, and that as great as Jalen Brunson is, he's not on the level of Devin Booker or Jimmy Butler, so they're obviously short that guy being the best player on a championship team level player. Really what they mean is a true superstar, and Tim McMahon said the next blockbuster, there's a decent chance that the Knicks are the ones who are making the deal. Obviously, that's all huge because just the fact that we've sort of been wondering what's going to happen with this. The Knicks have been stockpiling assets ever since Leon Rose came to the team and have been waiting to strike on something. They've used a few here and there, whether it was to get Cam Reddish or then later flip Cam Reddish for Josh Hart, where they ended up giving 2 first-round picks away through all of that. And Kevin Knox, of course. Can't forget Kevin Knox. But there's a lot of assets. There's a lot of protected picks. A few of them are in 2024. And it just feels like the Knicks need to make some sort of move. But the question is, who can they really go for? When you look at the market, it's hard to see if there's going to be a superstar who is like going to request a trade. It felt like maybe Embiid, but the 76ers have been doing very well. It then felt like Giannis very briefly, but then they acquired Damian Lillard, and Giannis instantly signed that extension. Donovan Mitchell, it's hard to put him on that same level. He hasn't ever won an MVP like Giannis or Embiid. And then you see guys who are like Jason Tatum, who would never leave the Celtics. Things are great there. And outside of that, when it comes to guys who are in that age group, you're really out of them when it comes to guys who you're like, okay, that's a superstar. You could then look at a guy like a Paul George or something. But Paul George is late into his career. He's 33 years old now. He's been around the NBA for a while. He's probably played his best basketball. And then you're acquiring his contract for multiple draft picks because the Clippers feel like they're obviously in win now mode. So all of this is huge. So let's look to Scott Perry. What did he have to say? He said that essentially, if he were still the Knicks GM, he would look to trade for a big two-way wing, maybe play RJ Barrett down at the 2, add more size, and they could make a jump doing that. And then he threw OG Anunoby's name in and said, yeah, that's a very good name. If that did come to pass, I could see him fitting with the roster. Though I do agree and think OG Anunoby would be an awesome wing to pair along RJ Barrett. I meant to talk about this when Darielle and I were talking about just a few trades when Anunoby and Donovan Mitchell's names both came up. The Knicks are not going to trade for OG Anunoby. If you've been keeping up with the channel and just the Knicks in general, you would know that there is currently a lawsuit going on between the Knicks and the Toronto Raptors, where a former Knicks employee named Ikechukwu Azatam allegedly stole a bunch of reports, like scouting reports, videos, and just over 1,000 files of information, and allegedly gave that to the Toronto Raptors, the team that he now works for, that he was hired in June or July of, I forget which month. And then gave them to first-time head coach Darko Rajakovic, along with the player development coach and a few other employees of the Toronto Raptors. I believe there was 12 names put on the official lawsuit. And then, obviously, Masai Ujiri commented on it and said this is the first time a lawsuit's ever happened in the NBA, so go figure, where a team has sued another team, that is. Also, he's just wrong. The Knicks and the Nets had a lawsuit because the Nets were the New Jersey Nets when they first came over from the ABA. That's beside the point, but just, he's not correct about that statement. However, it does mean OG Anunoby's off the table, so that leaves 2 guys in my mind. One of them we've talked about before, such as right here, and many other times. His name is Zion Williamson. It would certainly, in my mind, make sense to go for Zion Williamson because though you'd probably be giving up Julius Randle because there's no way they really fit together, I think Zion Williamson makes a better fit with the New York Knicks than Randle does. Randle's been a better player in the recent years in the form that he's available. The best ability is availability. Julius Randle has been available for the New York Knicks. He's been there. He's played through injuries. He's been an All-NBA player twice. He's been an All-Star twice. He put up 25 and 10 last year. Sure, the playoffs are rough, but we all know that's because of the ankle injury, and if you dispute it, then whatever, I don't really care. We all know why it is, or we all should. And I think if the Knicks were to trade Randall for Zion, they would also have to give up some other assets, and we will go further into that. But essentially, I think it would help the Knicks succeed because when you look at this New York Knicks team, I don't think they're ever going to be able to be as good as any of the contenders right now, as long as the next 3 or 4 years go by and they have the same rotation. Because I just don't think that Barrett, Brunson, and Randall work that well together. And I think Barrett and Brunson, out of all three of those guys, work the best as a duo. And if you throw Zion in there, he can play off ball and still get you 25 points per game through cuts and just running plays and doing a pick and roll set that doesn't really fit Julius's game as much. So I think going for Zion would make a ton of sense, and I proposed a mock trade. Now, I know that all of you internet GMs, like myself, I don't work for the New York Knicks, I'm not an NBA GM, this is just my opinion, are going to have a problem with this. You're either going to say that this would never happen, or that the Knicks are giving up way too much. Nothing is perfect in these trade proposals. We all have different value systems. That's the wrong one, so I just gave you a preview into what's next. But if you look here, Julius Randle and Quentin Grimes would be going out to the New Orleans Pelicans, along with the Knicks Detroit pick. Obviously, that's highly protected. 2 second-rounders in 2025, the Knicks 2027 first-round pick, and then a top 3 protected pick in 2029. So the Knicks would be giving 2 protected first-round picks, two protected first-round picks, 1 unprotected, 2 second-rounders, an all-star, all-NBA player in Julius Randle, who would fit really well with this Pelicans team, and then Quentin Grimes, who would also fit really well with this Pelicans team, especially as a wing next to Herb Jones, or off the bench being a completely different player. Now, here's the thing. You could replace Emmanuel Quickley and Quentin Grimes there if you think, okay, maybe they'd rather have Emmanuel Quickley, maybe do that. Either one works. I threw Quentin Grimes' name in there. Obviously, they have a similar player in Herbert Jones, but I think Quentin Grimes just would have a nice fit there. He's from the South to begin with. I think he would just mesh really well with a guy like Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum, and I think Julius Randle fits there. I mean, him and Randle played together before, and I think that if you get a guy like him who's more than just a scorer, who can be more of a point forward if that's what you need, plays better defense than Zion, and Valanciunas isn't the world's greatest defender, it just makes a team that sort of works, and it would really be interesting to see. I think it would make the Pelicans better in the now, and it feels like they want to win. It's why they have McCollum there. He's not getting younger. So it feels like the New Orleans Pelicans want to win, and this could be a move that they could make. Obviously, I think the Pelicans would say no, and I'm being biased towards the Knicks here. They might have to give up more. They at least will probably be asked for more. This would be a win for the Knicks, in my opinion, if they could make this trade. But there comes the risk of Zion's injuries. The man has not played that many games in his NBA career for a guy who's been in the league for 5 years. He's constantly dealt with injuries every season. He's never had a healthy season where he's just played through the entire thing. He's missed an entire season of NBA basketball. So we know that Zion's health is a huge concern. I think the Knicks would be in this position to make these moves and then also still have enough that, say this flames out, that things will be okay and they could probably bounce back and redirect, and they wouldn't be too really just destroyed from the Zion injury. Or it could go really well. The Knicks pick up Zion. He becomes the superstar that we all thought he could, especially in New York. We pair him with Brunson, where that feels like a seamless fit. Him and RJ Barrett are really close friends. Mitchell Robinson and Zion would just be a fun lob duo. And the Knicks go on and potentially contend for an NBA Finals. So I think this is a high-risk, high-reward move that the Knicks could make. And now one that's a little more low-risk that we'll jump right into because I accidentally did show it. Here we go. Mel Bridges to the New York Knicks in exchange for Evan Fournier, Quentin Grimes, a 2024 pick, also Detroit, so it has all those protections that increase. They could flip that to Detroit if they wanted to for maybe another young player or something who's not getting a ton of minutes. A 2026 unprotected first-round pick because the Brooklyn Nets do not have a 2026 first-round pick. And then a least favorable protected first-round pick in 2027. With this trade specifically, and just the way this looks, that is just the Nets get the right to swap picks with the New York Knicks in the year 2027. That's really all there is to that one. I think this trade would be interesting. Unlike Zion Williamson, it's not trading for a guy who you're hoping is going to be the best player on a championship team. What this does is it keeps the Knicks to be a very deep team. Again, you could replace Quentin Grimes with Emmanuel Quickley, but I think especially if the Nets were going to trade Mel Bridges to the Knicks, they'd want Quentin Grimes, who is a similar player, will do a similar thing, and could have a fairly similar growth that Mikal Bridges did. I also think Grimes just fits better next to a guy like Cam Thomas or someone who's not really a great defender but has incredible scoring abilities. I think that would work really well, and the Nets they have a good shooting team. Grimes is probably a better shooter than Quickley when it comes to consistency, except not lately. Obviously, he's in a slump. But I really think that could be a very interesting team that we could see. And right here, what the New York Knicks have is they have an improved roster where you have a team of Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, Mikal Bridges, so you still get the size thing that Scott Perry was talking about, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. That's a well-rounded team. That's a team that has multiple shot creators in the starting five with Jalen Brunson and Mikal Bridges. RJ Barrett and Mikal would fit really nicely next to each other because Mikal Bridges historically has been a good shooter. Off to a little bit of a rough start this year, but his shooting has improved in recent years, or in recent games. Sorry, that's the wrong thing if you look here. Mikal Bridges, throughout his time with the Brooklyn Nets in general, has been a 36% shooter from deep, and that includes this season, which is kind of a letdown. Shot nearly 38% last year from deep with the Brooklyn Nets alone, and for his career, shoots 37.5%, and then he shoots 47.5% from the field. None of this mentions that he's one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA, which is super important when it comes down to it, especially in playoffs. That is something that would matter so much. And also something that would matter in playoffs is the chemistry that he already has with Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Ryan Arcidiacono, who despite the fact he doesn't get many minutes and is mainly a garbage time player, his vibes are still important to the team. You get the Nova Knicks fully together. You get the final Infinity Stone. It would be a fun vibe. The team would fit well. Mikal Bridges, I don't want to call him a better version of Quentin Grimes because that's not doing Mikal Bridges justice to what he's been able to do in the NBA, especially on the Nets as their best player. But it would be a similar player where you would still get a great 3-and-D player. He would have more abilities than Quentin Grimes does. He's able to explode for huge games. He's probably still a better on-ball defender. He's also larger, which is helpful because the Knicks could use some more size, and then they have a guy who can probably guard some forwards better than Quentin Grimes can, because Grimes is short for a guy who's playing against a lot of the best perimeter players. It's why I've called for RJ to guard guys like Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler all year long. I think they're just too big for Grimes. I don't like the fit. Mikal Bridges can seamlessly go in there and then also become an excellent shooter for the Knicks who could create some shots if Jalen Brunson's being guarded heavily and if Julius Randle is not on his game. I just think that Mikal Bridges is a perfect fit for the New York Knicks. I would love this trade. And once again, say it were to go poorly for some reason, this doesn't completely deplete the Knicks. And if another star player is to become available, the Knicks will still have assets to go after them. I don't know which one of the starters would lose their jobs and probably get traded in it, but it would be an interesting team, and you would get to see a situation where they're still able to go for an absolute superstar player while having a team that's good enough to be similar to the Miami Heat team that just went to the NBA Finals, where the basic strategies have a bunch of players who are above average, who fit together well, and there's very few holes in the team, and they work well together. And that's what the Heat had. That's why they made the finals. And the Knicks would have a similar vibe to that, and they almost beat that Heat team. So you never know what could happen. I think that would be an excellent move to make the Knicks better, at least in the now. I could also see Mikal Bridges getting traded. I think that makes the most sense for the Brooklyn Nets, is to blow it up and get as many assets as possible because this team is not going to work out. But this is not Nets Digest. This is Knicks Digest. So hopefully that trade happens. Leave a comment below what you think the Knicks should do. Should they make either of these moves? Am I completely incorrect? Yell at me in the comments for all you want. Agree with me if you want to. Let's have some talks in the comments. Let's talk trades. I always love doing that with you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you have a great day. And remember, go Knicks, guys.